Great. Sounds good. First order of business is the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'd like to make motions here.
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Morgan, are you going to read this first part?
Sure. This is a public hearing and adopting a resolution recommending forwarding to the Bend Planning Commission, affected taxing districts, and the Bend City Council, the Ridge Tax Increment Area Plan and Report, the Century Tax Increment Area Plan and Report, and the Viridian Tax Increment Area Plan and Report.
We're going to have a staff presentation, then we're going to hear from, and then board members will get to ask questions of staff, then presentations from each of the applicants for the three areas. We can ask questions as we go along. Then we'll take public comments. We have one person tonight. If there's further discussion, further questions, and then we'll close public hearing, and then we'll do deliberation and decisions. So take it away.
Did you want to open the public hearing?
Oh, yes, I guess so. You open the public hearing.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the agency. Tonight's staff will be presenting the recommended TIF plans and reports for BURA to recommend the establishment of new tax increment finance districts for the purposes of implementing the tax increment assistance for housing affordability. The agenda follows a public hearing format. Staff will detail the process of establishing a TIF district and what each step entails. We will review the proposed areas and summarize the projects that were approved for assistance last month. You will then be able to ask questions not only of staff but of the applicants that are present, allow for public comment, and then deliberate and provide a motion for those plans. After a year of public involvement and over 25 engagement opportunities, BURA passed the TIF assistance policy for housing affordability on October 18th. This policy focused on housing affordability while also incentivizing multi-unit family housing. As noted before, 8 out of 10 occupations and nearly 50% of households cannot adequately afford rent and BIN. And with the recent Oregon Housing Needs Assessment, our community needs to deliver the average of 4 units a day to meet our 5-year benchmark of 8,500 units. Last month, BURA approved 5 projects for the site-specific program. Tonight, we'll establish 3 new TIF areas. The approved project platform is in the core area TIF plan and not subject to this process. On March 3rd and 12th, the Bend Economic Development Advisory Board and the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee unanimously supported the creation of the 3 new TIF districts for these 4 projects.
All right, Elizabeth Oshel with the City Attorney's Office. I'll go through a few slides about the general process overview and where we are in creation of TIF districts. Creation of TIF areas or urban renewal areas is governed by Oregon State statute. Tonight, the BURA will consider and recommend adoption to the City Council of 3 new TIF areas, as Jonathan explained. If BURA approves any of those plans to move forward, the Planning Commission will review all 3 plans for conformance with the Bend Comprehensive Plan. The taxing districts affected by this adoption and the segregation of tax increment to BURA will receive notice and have an opportunity to provide written comment on the plans and proposed projects to the City Council. There will be a citywide public notice mailed throughout the city so everyone can be aware of that City Council public hearing and have an opportunity to review the plans on the city's website and comment on them. There will also be a presentation to Deschutes County Commission on the proposed maximum indebtedness for each of the plans, and that will occur at the joint city-county meeting on April 28th. Each TIF area is required by statute to have a plan and a report. These are provided to you in draft form for tonight's presentation. The TIF plan has to set out the projects to be funded, give a map and legal description, describe the relationship of the proposed projects to local objectives and land uses, and set out the maximum indebtedness for the use of increment. The report that accompanies the plan goes into some greater detail describing existing conditions, reasons for selecting the area for use of the TIF mechanism, how the projects in the plan relate to remediating the blighted conditions of the area, which is an underlying prerequisite for creation of a TIF area. There has to be identifiable blight in the area. The report gives the estimated cost for projects, the anticipated date of project completion, and goes into a financial analysis and analysis of financial financial impacts of the proposed use of TIF for each area. Just to go a little deeper in the relationship to state and local objectives is outlined individually in each plan, but each of these shares many of the same relationship to these state and local objectives. These projects will build new housing units and meet some of those goals and objectives outlined in the Oregon Housing Needs Assessment, which is a statewide assessment of the housing needs of Oregon. The plans support the goals of the Bend Comprehensive Plan, Goal 1, public involvement, Goal 5, housing, and Goal 11, growth management. Each of the areas presented tonight represent infill development of housing in and near residential and commercial areas, parks, schools, and transit corridors as identified in the city's urban growth boundary planning work of 2016. The Century area also supports, I think that's supposed to be Goal 6, apologies, economy, because there is some mixed-use commercial space in one of the buildings. The Bend Economic Development Advisory Board has a strategic plan, and its Goal 2 is to support workforce housing opportunities, and the rent restrictions in these proposals support that goal as well. And then each of the projects proposed in the areas conforms to the Bend Development Code. Actually, each of the projects already has approved site plan review by the city. The Britta Ridge project is multi-unit housing on an urban dwelling site in the mixed employment zone. Century, mixed-use housing and mixed-use development in the mixed-use urban zone. The Viridian is multi-unit housing in a high-density residential zone. This is a map of where the three areas are located. This figure comes from Goal 11, growth management of the comprehensive plan. You can see an area to the north of town, west of town, and southwest. The red lines and red shaded areas are transit corridors identified in that planning work adopted in 2016. Now, Jonathan will go into the specifics of each area.
The proposed TIF area of Britta Ridge is located at 300 Halfway Road near Camping World RV and within a transit corridor, 1.2 miles of public schools, 0.1 mile of a public park, and surrounded by developed properties with commercial and mix of housing types. The area is 6.16 acres of vacant, undeveloped, privately owned land with adjacent right-of-ways. The area is zoned mixed employment and is designated as such in the comprehensive plan. As Elizabeth noted, it is also a designated urban dwelling site. The plan is in a irregular shape with elevation changes up to 25 feet. Steeper slopes exist on the northeast and the mound of the central south portion of the area. The area will require strategic placement of development structures and the use of retaining walls so the site can be developed in accordance with the Bend Development Code. The estimated total assessed value for fiscal year 2025 is $269,000. With the consistent lack of development, the area has diminished taxable value, reducing the overall tax receipts in comparison to the adjacent areas, thereby not contributing its fair share to the overall tax base. The result is stagnant, unproductive use of land, resulting in taxable value of $2.9 million less per acre of adjacent parcels. The maximum indebtedness is $14.6 million over a 3-year plan period. The plan has forecasted a 2-year delay of increment generation due to construction, certificate of occupancy requirements, and reassessment timelines. The $53 million project will consist of 178 residential units across 3 buildings with sizes ranging from 510 to 968 square feet. The unit mix will include studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms. The proposed development was approved for assistance based on their stated intentions of exceeding the base policy by providing 20% of units to household at or below 90% area median income for 30 years. 80% of project costs will be awarded to local contractors. The estimated project costs are associated with the maximum indebtedness limit of $14.6 million over 32 years. This awards $14.2 million in tax assistance based on annual compliance and certification with the policy, which will be outlined in a future development agreement that BURA will adopt, and up to a 3% administrative charge for legal requirements. The proposed impact is based on current revenue from the vacant land. The average annual impact to the general fund is $530. The average annual impact to taxing districts is $2,400. Bonds and levies are unaffected by urban renewal. It will generate $3.9 million for bonds. This includes schools, parks, and fire. The next proposed TIF area is Century TIF at 1081 Southwest Mount Washington Drive near Bend Athletic Club, Mount Bachelor Village, and Pepper Tree Hotel. The area is within a city-designated opportunity zone and within or near a transit corridor. The area has access to schools, parks, services, and employment. The Deschutes River with public trails and parks are located in close proximity to the east. The proposed area is 9.2 acres of vacant, undeveloped, privately owned land with adjacent right-of-ways, zoned mixed-use urban in our comprehensive comprehensive plan. The plan area is a irregular shape and has substantial topographical and geological issues. The area has varying topography with elevation changes over 50 feet on the west and south side with a seismic fault line on the west side of the plan area. The area will require significant strategic placement of development structures, seismic modifications, and site design and mitigation so that the area can be developed in accordance with the Bend Development Code. The estimated total assessed value for fiscal year 2025 is $3.6 million, with consistent lack of development due to geological issues and topography. The proposed area has diminished taxable value, reducing the overall tax receipts. The result is stagnant, unproductive land, reducing taxable values by $3.5 million less per acre than adjacent parcels. The proposed area has two projects, the first being Century Bluff, a $60 million project consisting of units across two buildings with unit sizes ranging from 480 to 1,300 square feet. The unit mix includes studios, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and townhomes. The development was approved for assistance by providing 20% of units to households at 90% area median income for 30 years, 61% of project cost to local contractors, and obtaining an Energy Star certification. As noted with Project Ritter Ridge, the impact is on current revenue from vacant land. The average annual impact to the general fund is $3,000, with the average annual impact to our fellow taxing districts of $1,300. This project will generate $4.5 million over the planned duration for schools, parks, and fire. The second project is Century West. This $127 million project will consist of 297 units with unit sizes ranging from 519 to 1,200 square feet. This will include studios, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. The project anticipates a certificate of occupancy by 2027. The proposed development was approved for the assistance policy based on their intentions of exceeding the policy by providing 15% of units at 90% AMI for 20 years, 23% of project costs awarded to local contractors, and obtained LEED Silver certification. The impact will be $3,500 to the general fund, $1,500 to taxing districts, and $9.2 million generation for schools, parks, and fire. Estimated project costs are associated with a maximum indebtedness of $49.6 million over 30 years. This awards $15.6 and $18.3 million in tax assistance rebate based on compliance and certification with the policy, outlined in a development agreement for both Century Bluff and Century West. Potential additional assistance is the remaining maximum indebtedness following Century West reimbursement in 2050. Due to the decision of staff to establish one TIF plan to include 2 projects, this additional year amount is the continued collection of the Century West increment while the plan continues until 2057. With this additional increment, staff is recommending 2 options to be considered that will be identified in the development agreement. In 2050, assistance could be available to Century West for continued rent restrictions until plan termination in 2057, or BURA can elect to return that annual increment to the taxing districts until plan termination. At no future point will Century Bluff receive this amount. The Viridian TIF area is northwest Mount Washington Drive and northwest Shevlin Park Road. The area is adjacent to Central Oregon Community College, near K through 12 public schools and parks. The area measures 2.81 acres, is vacant, undeveloped, and publicly owned, zoned high-density residential. The estimated total assessed value for fiscal year 2025 is $0. This is because it's publicly owned. With a consistent lack of development as high-density residential, the area has diminished tax value, reducing the overall tax receipt. The result is stagnant, unproductive use of land and taxable value of $1 million less per acre than the adjacent parcel. The maximum plan indebtedness is $8.7 million over 30 years. The plan has a forecasted 2-year delay of increment generation due to construction, certificate of occupancy, and reassessment timeline. The project is $23 million and will consist of 69 residential units across 6 buildings with unit sizes ranging from 727 to 1,000 square feet. The unit mix includes 1 and 2 bedrooms. The proposed development was approved for the assistance policy based on their intentions of exceeding that base policy by providing 15% of units to households at 80% area median income for 30 years and awarding 51% of project costs to local contractors. The estimated project costs are associated with maximum indebtedness. This awards $6.8 million to tax assistance rebate based on annual compliance outlined in the development agreement. To provide flexibility with other timelines, the plan was structured at 30 years. The proposed reimbursement assistance is slated to end in 2051. This leaves $1.6 million in remaining maximum indebtedness. As such, there will be 2 options: allow BURA to offer additional assistance to Viridian for rent restrictions, or officially terminate that taxing district. The impact is based on publicly owned vacant land. There are no impacts to the general fund or other taxing districts. It will generate $2.6 million for schools, parks, and fire over plan duration. As noted by Elizabeth, there is a continued process to adopt these proposed TIF areas. Tonight, Bend Urban Renewal Agency will recommend or not recommend the plans to City Council. Starting tomorrow, we initiate the consult and confer period. I will be mailing certified TIF plan reports with a letter to all taxing districts affected by this plan. On April 10th, Neighborhood Districts meeting. This will be an education opportunity about what is occurring in their neighborhoods as well as any questions they may have. Beginning on April 1st through April 30th, there will be an online open house. This will be where the community can sit official public comment. On April 14th, Planning Commission conformance. We will mail notifications in April to notify of the May 7th public hearing by City Council. On April 28th, we will have a joint City Council and Deschutes County meeting that is required. This will be where we inform them of the maximum indebtedness impact.
So if there are any questions?
The councilors or members have questions for staff.
I have questions. Just to be clear about the project platform, last time we discussed all the projects, I thought you were coming back to us with all the projects, but it sounds like platform is just going ahead.
So platform is already in a TIF area. This is the process to create the new TIF areas to provide development assistance to projects within the areas. So platform will be back on May 7th for a development agreement. It doesn't need this advanced process because it's already in the core area.
There's a policy for existing TIF areas that replicates what we're doing here for those within TIF areas, right? We're applying that policy.
I understand that means we don't have to go to the other taxing districts.
Right, we've already done that.
I thought it would come back to.
It will, it will. The development agreement for the assistance annual rebate and setting out those rent restrictions will come back to BURA for approval on May 7th.
Okay, it still cuts out this conversation that we're having now about these projects.
Because it's already in a TIF district.
And we've already, actually with the MUPD, the district have already seen this project. Platform.
Tenure though, right?
They've seen the project and I believe all supported it, a project platform.
If the MUPD was approved, I don't remember the votes on the MUPD, but that project was previewed by many, if not all, of the taxing districts.
Right.
The impacts to the taxing district revenues was addressed at the time of creation of the core area, which didn't have specific development assistance projects identified, but it did have the 190,
Frozen base.
the frozen base
Yeah.
and the maximum indebtedness established. So project platform is proposed to be funded using the existing maximum indebtedness for the core area. It's a project using the already approved maximum indebtedness of the core area.
It's a 20-year extension from 10 years of the.
23 years.
The 23-year extension.
It's within the existing core area plan duration. It doesn't extend.
We'll rescind the MUPD before we approve their abatement under this program.
So are we getting presentations tonight from project team?
Question about Century TIF plan. How come the maximum indebtedness is so high compared to the rest of, like, how come there's so much left over to be potentially used at the end?
The administrative decision by staff was to incorporate 2 adjacent TIF areas into 1 TIF area. So what ends up happening in Century West, when their program has been completed, there will be an additional increment generated within that district that is unclaimed. It can be awarded as development assistance. You can shrink the district, or you can just allow that increment to be rebated back to the taxing districts. There are specific forms that our finance team can do, but because we've incorporated it into 1 district, we have to claim the actual value for the total duration of 32 years.
That decision would be made in 2050.
Or you can make it in the development agreement.
Okay, so we could make it now.
Can you give us some examples of other communities that have offered a 30-year tax abatement for the development of market rate housing?
Sure. The state of Massachusetts offers urban tax increment financing. It offers tax increment up to 30 years for mixed-use urban developments, which most of these apply to. Maybe I don't have it, surprising. I thought I did.
I don't think it's gonna close. I remember the question came up last time in Oregon, Salem gave a 40-year.
Right, Salem's
duration.
about it.
And Wilson has done for jobs.
Is Wilsonville the other communities use the plan too?
Salem has used the site-specific TIF for a housing project.
So that's the only other community so far.
In
besides
Oregon
us.
to use this type of taxing finance tool.
Does anybody else have questions for staff before we move to applicant?
We'll find that in for you.
We can do that in our second round. We're starting off with Britta, right?
Thanks, Jonathan.
For joining us tonight.
I would say mayor and councilors, but your board members, chair and members. I'm Mark Mixis with D. Chase Mixis Development. This is Matt Nelson, development manager with us on the Britta Ridge project. Thank you for this chance to present tonight. I don't have a long presentation. I wanted to introduce us, give a little history on the project. Jonathan has done a lot of the analysis based on working with us. He's very informed on the project. Tax Mixes is a local development company. We have offices here in Bend, in Eugene, and in Boise. We work throughout the Intermountain West. Over the last 7 years, we've delivered about 300 multifamily housing units to the Bend community. In addition to multifamily, we currently work with Deschutes Public Library System in their library bond project. So you guys are getting a new central library. I encourage you to get out there, take a look. That's an amazing project for this community. We also work throughout Central Oregon with Redmond on an affordable workforce housing project called North Point Vista. It was approved through House Bill 4079. That was the affordable housing pilot program that allowed them to expand the urban growth boundary to include affordable. We've done housing of different types supporting different income levels throughout this community. The property is owned by a local business owner and is currently vacant. Both Brita and Halfway Road have significant improvements as part of this project. Land use was completed in 2022. The property's been owned since 2021. We've submitted for building permits, very close to being ready to go, but the project did pause for a while. Markets have been challenging since 22. Interest rate increases have been significant over that time. That was partly to fight inflation. Inflation has also increased operational expenses on all of our properties. That's an impact on our existing assets as well as any new projects. It really has a big impact on our net operating income. And construction costs have continued to go up. So it's just a very challenging environment to deliver multifamily housing today between 21 when the property was purchased and today. And that did slow down our progress on this project. In October 24, as you know, you approved the Housing Affordability Program, and that really did change the dynamics of this project and allowed us to pick the project back up and advance it forward. As Jonathan said, 170 units, 20% restricted below 90% AMI for 30 years. We'll deliver 178 units of multifamily housing to the community. We're very close to starting this project. The approval of this program is key to keep the project moving. That'll open it up to questions.
Is the financing completely in place, the project, or do you have more?
We have been out for lenders. We have a couple options, and we do have a variety of options to complete financing. We have not, until we have certainty on this program, we have not put financing in place.
And can you, so is Tax Mixes involved with the project over its lifetime, or upon completion is it turnover?
To the property owner. Our agreement is to keep the property up through stabilization and to hit certain metrics with the property owner. We do asset management in the Bend market, so we'll be involved with this project long term.
It looked in some documentation that the project would sell at year 10. That's typical of multifamily projects.
That is, I think, a metric we use to evaluate a potential return metric. So I think that was analysis done primarily to say if it was sold in year 10, what would that value be? This asset is intended to be a long-term hold. The business plan has not been modeled with a 10-year sale. It has been a long-term asset for this property owner.
I don't know if you heard the last BURA meeting discussion that we had around these projects. I personally feel that I'm a developer, and I personally feel the 30-year tax abatement is very generous. I'd appreciate it if you could elaborate to council the difference between a 30-year abatement and a 10-year abatement, which is more typical around.
When we look at the financial benefit of the project, we'll calculate it as a net present value to day one on the project. And so that's how we'll look at any assistance that will come in the form over a duration of time. So that's how we'll use it in our financial analysis. And certainly the longer the duration potentially can have a bigger impact. The farther out that benefit goes, though, it does dilute due to net present value. This benefit does make the project feasible based upon our analysis. Prior to this, we didn't have a feasible project. Yeah, we came to Bend in 2018. We worked with CS Construction because of their local presence. We actually do this in all the markets we work in. I do a lot of work in Eugene. We almost always work with the local contracting force, particularly in the smaller markets. They have better connections with local subs, more control over pricing and availability. We get better performance and more accurate pricing from using local subs. So we almost exclusively work with local subcontractors. We did that in our last several projects. CS has been our general contractor on both of those projects. They're our general contractor on this project as well. And we think that's a huge commitment. It provides back to the community. Oftentimes these people living in our projects. So we have a strong commitment to working locally with the contracting community.
I didn't see, it's not clear to me which units are going to be at, you have this 85 to 90% rent rate. Are you clear yet on which units are available at which price points, or is that TBD? You've identified 12 studios, 12 one-bedrooms, and 12 two-bedrooms.
They wouldn't specifically be a unit earmarked. It could float or move, but those will always have at least that many units at that price point. We don't try and set aside a unit and make that the affordable unit. We try and, it could be anywhere within the project anytime. You know, our compliance will be to ensure that we have at a minimum that many units being offered at that price point.
So roughly 12 of the 18 studios, or what was going to be, but not necessarily.
These 12 in this building, it could be any of them throughout the project, correct?
Okay, so this basic mix of some studios, some one bedrooms, and some two bedrooms is going to be in that price range.
Yeah, correct.
Any other questions?
I have one. What is your experience with building electric-only powered and heated homes and multifamily dwellings?
Yeah, so we have a big commitment to migrating towards all electric. In some instances, we have used gas for water heating when we have building-wide. On this project, we're primarily all electric. We will have some gas service to the property, but we use electric heat pumps for our heating and cooling on the project. I believe our water heating is electric on the project. Do we have gas to the project?
For amenity space, there's an opportunity for
There-
individual units will be electric.
Yeah, so we believe we are migrating as much as we can to being all electric on almost all our multifamily projects.
Great. Some fire pit for the public spaces or something?
Yeah, I think we have a fire pit plan for the public amenity space.
I appreciate the directions you're going with that. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. I think we've got the Century folks, Century West and Century Bluff.
Century Bluff should go first.
Yeah,
Sorry, we're just dying for a midterm. Sorry. We're the big.
we've been here since 5.
I appreciate it, and thank you for your time. My name is Graydon Manning, representing the Century Bluff project. This project has been underway for about 3 years and has evolved a couple different times as we've struggled, much like the last applicant noted, to make economic sense of this project. It's currently entitled for 272-unit, 6-story mid-rise style development. We're scaling that down to a 4-story surface parked project, which in combination with this program moves the needle into financially feasible, where this has not been feasible for the project team for the last couple of years. The site faces challenges. It's 2 parcels. One of them is a highly irregular shaped parcel that on the Reed Market side, the Century portion on Century Drive has the haul trail and the significant sewer line running on the other side. There's one rectangle you can fit a building on that site. There's one flat area with all the jogs and the drop off. You can get a rectangular building. So that's a challenge, but we're able to overcome it and find spaces. The 152 unit project, we're proposing it with this program would come 31 affordable units. We're really focused on student housing at this property. Kitty corner from SU. I've developed a couple hundred beds of student housing in Eugene and Pullman, so I have background in student housing. And it's important, I think, as every university, and this one in particular, significant growth plans has student housing options. This won't be a purpose-built student housing asset, which only offers student housing leased by the bedroom. This will be a conventionally leased apartment, but will cater and will offer amenities like study lounges and focused on a younger demographic with Oregon State, right kitty corner from the site. Our partners, part of them are at CS Construction, a local contracting firm, is a part of this project, and has always had a commitment to local contracting. When I talked to the group at CS about our contractor list, they were, here you go, they already have all the Rolodex, for the contractors they know will be a good fit for this project. We'll lean on those local subs. It really can't be understated. Mark did a good job talking about how challenging development is now and has been for about 2.5, 3 years. And it did go from kind of a heyday in 2020, 2021. The multifamily space was the place to be when office, hotel, and retail were off the table for most of the equity community. So they flooded the multifamily space. You got a bunch of housing here and everywhere else, which good, we all want that. The spigots, were largely turned off as interest rates, inflation, and general volatility, is occurring. And unfortunately, there's some additional volatility occurring right now in the construction cost market, which tariffs and other interesting policies being put in place. We're struggling to find the ledge on construction costs and peg something in your pro forma and feel good about it when 6 months down the road that could increase 5-10% doesn't sound like a lot, but it breaks your model. It's an economic model. The equity group needs this debt coverage ratios for that. And you can play in that space only with assistance, only if there's forward-thinking policy, which I think you all and Jonathan have done a great job putting together that allows us to say, okay, you can go raise money for this deal. I applaud that and appreciate you being here at 9 o'clock.
Do we have questions from members?
Does anyone want to go first?
You said this is geared towards students. Looking at this picture, I wish I could live in a place like this. Are you thinking they'll live in like the 2 and 3 bedrooms so they can share rent? Because I'm just wondering who can afford, in Bend, a 1-bedroom at college.
Yes, that's typically with the student model. You are renting multiple people kind of by the bedroom, and the hope is, a friend or two come in. In some situations, you do random pairings. You say, hey, we've got multiple individuals that want a bedroom. Are you comfortable with a roommate? You're going to pair them up, but without a parent helping, it is challenging for a student to rent anywhere in Bend.
I was wondering if you could speak more to the silver certification.
We're pursuing Energy Star is a federally recognized program. Part of the reason we're pursuing Energy Star certification is to take advantage of 45L. It's a tax credit program for Energy Star projects. That's why we chose that certification. Energy Star, LEED, Earth Advantage are really good and important. The last project I developed in Bend is the current, a couple ones from this project, and I would like to believe it's amongst the most sustainable buildings in the city, and has a litany of sustainable features. Pure electric, unlike, with the exception of a fireplace, just like our last applicant, a large solar array, all those types of things, and we intend to do the same on this project.
So you're hoping that tax credit will stay in place amongst the volatility issues you were referring to earlier?
Yes.
So
very
the
much
picture,
so, yeah.
the picture we're seeing, you said that you've scaled this down to be more of a four-story.
I do think this is a previous photo from the previous approval. Take the 2 stories off the bottom and set it on the ground. Is what the building is. We're not doing everything in our power to not, because we do have an approved entitlement for that larger building. So there's only so much you can change and keep that entitlement and keep it in the modification category. So it's pretty minor.
Any other questions?
Have you applied for building permits yet?
We are going through that entitlement modification. We still have to get that approval before we can apply for building permits.
Got it. And so then at what stage are you going out to equity investors?
We're in the design stage, self-funding the work. We have a few equity partners that have expressed interest in the project and have said, we need to see that entitlement work complete. They're interested in this abatement process and how this shakes out. So there's still a bit in flux, and because we are about at least 9 months, if not more like 12, from putting a shovel in the ground, the financial model is subject to volatility.
If the program had been 10 years and not 30 years, would you have applied?
Good question. I think you would have to make an incremental step in your model. I don't think that a 10-year would get, your exit cap on cost to a point that you could credibly go to investors with it, but I think I would have applied still.
Are you utilizing the SDC payback?
Yes, we intend to. We'd like to.
Any other questions?
One more for me. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Did you clarify 100% electric then with the Energy Star certification?
Correct. There is a planned outdoor fireplace that would be gas powered.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So Century West.
Good evening. My name is Matt Buma. I'm a partner at PCP. We are a multifamily apartment developer, owner, and operator. We're long-term investments focused on high-quality communities. We're attracted to Bend for its strong economy, livability, and commitment to a smart urban development. And I think, like previous applicants have said, we think this is a really clear program. This is a well-executed program that has a lot of forward-thinking policy that's going to allow a lot of affordable housing to happen in the city and really drive quality and diverse options. So the development that we have is 1081 Southwest Mount Bachelor Drive. A previous developer entitled the property for 297 units, and they went out and sought financing. They were ultimately unsuccessful in capitalizing their deal. As previous applicants have said, it's been an extremely challenging market for multifamily throughout the country. That's not unique to the Pacific Northwest. There's entitlements which run with the land. We absolutely love the site. We think it's a high potential site for high quality development. With this program, we see the difference of it being a marginal development to something that will likely attract financing. The site has remained undeveloped for 20 years. It has some significant challenges to it. There's some unique geometry, not not only to the extent of the parcel, but there's over a 30-foot grade difference. There's also a seismic fault running through the property based on the Oregon's geological records that are online, as well as in our geotechnical findings with Wallace Group, a local firm. So when we look at the obstacles here, we don't get discouraged because Bend's an absolutely beautiful place. It's got so much unique character. There's a real commitment to growth here and economic opportunity and smart urban development. I think when we're looking at the demographics here and how it's expanding, we think this program will deliver a lot of diverse and high quality options. So our project is going to deliver 297 units total. So it's a significant size and scale. 45 of those units will be designated as affordable housing. And the project's going to achieve some energy efficiency certification. It's going to enhance the green spaces along the Hall Road Trail and contribute to the local economy by utilizing local contractors. So the benefits will extend beyond housing. Everything we do is long-term. We expect to be here for a very long time. We're excited to be here. We think the site-specific program is critical in getting this project off the ground. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So where are you at? Have you applied for building permit?
Yeah, great question. So we are taking over from another developer's work who has since fallen out of contract. So there's a process for us of looking at what was entitled and really adapting it to the type of development that we typically do, which is again a higher quality move-up renter demographic. There are active permits which have been extended. Our goal is to get through our own process as quickly as possible so that we can break ground as quickly as possible. So our process will be expedited. The way we capitalize our deals is we put a significant amount of our own equity in. We've had success recently in Redmond, Washington, in Bozeman, Montana, in Boise, Idaho, finding debt in these markets because of the equity we're contributing. We believe that there's a very high likelihood that we'll be able to get started potentially in the spring of next year. Our process will be straightforward, but the specifics of this program really drive the success of the financing.
Could you share any changes in the pro forma or development costs you adjusted when you took on the project? Was it like all the assumptions look the same and now we have a new program to help make it feasible, or significant changes?
When you look at, as other applicants mentioned, the pricing, hard cost pricing has been volatile. When you look at the uncertainty in the world, it's day to day often. When you see headlines coming out and, okay, is it 25% tariffs today? Where do we source our lumber? Is our lumber Canadian, or can the local supplier source domestic? All those factors go into ultimately a GMP contract. That conversation is ongoing and fluid. There's a feedback loop of design changes which can increase value for our residents. Also, okay, what's the cost associated with them? So that process is playing out over the next few months as we get into that. But the way we underwrite it is we obviously look at all of the supply that's delivered lately. We look at all the market rate rents. We look at the elements of this program, take the hard cost input. It's a very challenging environment because you have so many pieces of data that are constantly shifting. Our hope is we can find stability and certainty in the months ahead.
Those hard cost inputs have increased?
Very much so. They're particularly challenging. When you look at the rate of inflation from 2019, it's very significant. And you take that and you combine the challenges on the capital side. It's why we've seen a lot of housing stop.
Can I ask why you proposed studios be set at the 90% rate and not a mix?
It's the proximity to Cascades. I think when we look at the potential for students to live in a highly amenitized building within walking distance, when you have a development size close to 300 units, there's some spectacular amenities that you can offer that the smaller unit counts can't provide by the economies of scale. And so when we look at our proximity and we look at our model, the type of approach that we have with our operating business, because we also have our own property management company, we think there's a really special opportunity to take that segment and energize the building with a lot of young people who can attend the university.
We've had some discussion about whether there should be more 2 and 3 bedroom units at that rate. My last question is about the land acquisition cost. I saw it was a little over $1 million, but in the pro forma is $6.9 million. Almost $7 million.
So the current landowner, I believe that was the proof of ownership form that they provided when they acquired the land several decades ago.
So is there an appraisal then that shows the land is worth?
There's no appraisal yet, but there's a contract where we're buying the land.
That is that value.
At the higher value, correct.
And that lower value is the purchase price they paid.
Back in the 90s, I
The
believe.
prior-
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thanks so much.
I have some questions.
Actually,
Ask you.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. I know that you're outsized on the low end, and you're meeting our criteria with the percent of the local contractors, but 23 is low compared to other projects. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think what I've always been trained with is to always under-promise, over-deliver. We do not yet have a general contractor selected. We are looking for that option right now, and really it's again, goes to the uncertainty of this environment. We want to make sure that with other projects going forward, there's certain commitments that certain subcontractors will make, but what we want to commit to is we believe in investing in the local economy, so we want to make sure we can at least hit that minimum. Our goal is to exceed that.
Great, thank you. And you heard the caution 2 times before. Tell me about electrification.
It's something that we see happening. We think the potential for electrification is a great thing, and it's something that we have not yet made a final decision on. But like other applicants, I think we'll have gas service to the building for redundancy, and there's an emergency generator, but likely in the units we'll have electric source and be majority electric.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Richard Berger. I am the Director of Development for Neighborly Development. Today, I'm going to be brief, but I want to talk a little bit about our company, the project, and actually talk a little bit about this concept that you guys are embarking on. We are an Oregon-based company. We built 186 units in Bend over the last 5 years. We are a build and hold developer. We are also our own property management company. So when our project is developed and the other project we built in Bend has our staff on site living in the community. Our project is unique. It is a small project, relatively. It's 169 units, so it's quite small. Our affordability level is at 80% as opposed to the 90% level. And all our affordable units are 1 and 2 bedroom units. Those are a few unique things about our project. We build both affordable and market rate projects. I've had the opportunity to build mixed income projects, and they're the favorite ones that I work on. And this concept that you guys are embarking on allows market rate and affordable units and residents in the same project. I think that's a much better community. I'm really excited to be able to bring this, and before you guys started on this, it really wasn't an option because all the financing is so lined up. Is this affordable or is this market rate? And this really allows us to bridge this gap. We bridged it before, and it's a great community environment, and I think it provides better outcomes for the residences and the neighborhood. We do have building permits, just to, skip that question. And we are all electric. We don't plan on having any gas.
Well done, sir.
I'll ask you first. Anybody else have questions?
Did you have an intended audience? Residents.
We're not a student-oriented project. It's a broad-based family, seniors. The multifamily sector tends to be this kind of interesting group of younger people, and then this kind of pre-retirement group, and then the families tend not to be as large. We intend to serve that group, but just the way multifamily works, you have 22 to 35, then a little break, and then 50 to 60. So what I expect of this property.
So this project is asking for less than the full tax credit amount, is that right? 20 years? The
No.
full 30 years is like as long as...
Yes, we're hoping to get to 30 years. We asked for 2024 with the opportunity to extend that, I believe.
The slide says 20, that's why.
Yeah,
It says 30 on the previous slide in terms.
It's 30 years. The current negotiation with Neighborly is 20 years, but we have provided the opportunity for Neighborly to acquire additional assistance for the continuation of rent.
So it's 24 years, as you said. And other questions?
Equity, has the project raised all the equity it needs?
we go to a limited pool. The equity is on board, contingent on this approval as well as final construction pricing, which we're getting. We have permits, we have the plans. We ran the numbers last fall and they're too high. We're hoping they go down, but things changed over the last 2 months. We don't know. So the equity's in place if those two things happen. This approval and construction pricing ends up where we
Last question. I was on my neighborhood association when this project first came through. Is it scaled down from a couple years ago?
There's Viridian Phase 1, 186 units across the street. So this is a different project.
Maybe I'm turned around on the map.
Yeah, so it's a different project, but next to each other.
Chair, may I correct Paul's record?
Yeah, sure. I think we're done with questions for you, Richard.
Thank you.
Chip, do you have any questions for staff?
Staff, I provided the incorrect information to Councilor Franzosa's question. The staff recommendation on February 19th was a 24-year value, but the actual amount did not change. So I've misplaced the actual year value, so I apologize. It's 24, but the amount does not change. So my apologies.
Shows in the presentation you gave, 2015.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because the other applicants wanted the full, because it has all units, it's only.
I think this is different.
I did have information on the Salem housing
Yeah.
site-specific TIF. And my computer had to restart, so I had lost the website. But it's a 40-year TIF plan for 36 units and a $20 million maximum indebtedness.
That's 60% AM.
Those 36 units are at 60% AMI.
Illinois provides 23 years, Texas 30 years, Wisconsin up to 20, Vermont up to 20, Michigan up to 30, Washington State up to 25, and Massachusetts up to 30.
And
Those are TIF districts. How they apply their program, that is up to the local. Yes, ma'am.
And 30 years of commonly seen length for TIF districts.
At this point, do we have any further questions for staff to clarify anything related to the projects or the specific plans to recommend to council?
Just a question about the two big benefits. The biggest one is getting the projects built, helping us meet demand for much needed housing. And the additional, I mean, there's several other benefits, but I would characterize the additional very attractive benefit is a significant number of homes available at rates affordable to people at varying levels of the area median income. If a project is asking for an extension, like in the last applicant, and the program runs for another 6 years, is the right way to think about that the assistance essentially is just because the project's built, so that's done. It's just to keep the affordable homes available at those restricted levels. Is that the right way to think about
Under
that?
the current policy.
If the assistance is extended through the development agreement, those rent-restricted units, that would be a requirement, condition to proceed extended to meet the policy criteria.
Thank you.
So it's time for public comment. I know we have Chandler Austin is still with us online, and then is there somebody else in the room that wanted to do public comment tonight, or is it just Mr. Austin? Okay, do we generally do 2 or 3 minutes for comments at this point? Okay, so 2 minutes. And Chandler, I'm not gonna go through the whole litany of things, but generally we're asking you to address us as a group, be respectful in what you have to say, and address the policy at, the question before us, which is the approval of these TIP districts tonight. So when you're ready to go, we're ready to listen to what you have to say.
I am with the development team at the Chase, so no public comment. Just wanted to support those guys if they need anything tonight. So thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, then I guess now I close the public hearing, right? Good thing. Any other deliberation, discussion that anybody wants to have about any of these projects?
The only point I want to make to my fellow borough members is the same as last time. I am not in favor of the 30-year. By doing the site-specific TIF, we're already making a special measure to support projects not within a predetermined TIF area. I think that is really valuable. I just don't see a reason for extending the benefit to 30 years. I would be in favor of moving forward with the program the way it's designed for a 10-year abatement, but not longer.
My perspective goes back when we talked about the MUPD and why we wanted to promote multi-unit housing with certain aspects and get good developments, especially multifamily housing in an urban form in our city. We desperately need this type of housing and we need more of it. When we do get some, we help stabilize rents. As for the reasons talked about tonight, it is not going to be naturally occurring without assistance. The shift from the MUPD, which was never an affordable housing program, was to fund more affordable housing that was rent restricted at certain AMIs, to create that housing in the community, but also, as one of the developers talked about, create mixed income developments where you have people of differing family sizes, life stages, incomes, all living in the same place. And because I also agree that creates better community. Functionally, somewhat of an inclusionary policy where we're saying, okay, we want to help you build housing, but we also want affordable housing out of the deal. I think what we are doing is the necessary thing, which is you have to fund that affordable housing. It has to be subsidized in some way to make it happen. And we're not only doing that, but we're subsidizing and getting a lot of homes as well alongside that. So I think that was the consideration when this program was created. The program was created through a lot of input from our advisory bodies in the core area, BDAB, and others and HAC that contributed to the discussion and the realization that you need the 30 years, at least as an option. Not everyone's taking the full 30 years, but you need it to make projects happen. And we've heard that tonight. I don't think that's in service to the folks that helped us develop the policy. And I don't think it's the right moment to change it either. I think we have an opportunity later this year to come back and see if we want to make changes, but this is the program that we put in place. These developers have responded to it, I think, with some really great projects. We don't know that all of these will be built. We're hearing a lot of uncertainty. Without these, they will have to find other assistance. I want to move forward with the program we've set up, and I think we've gotten some pretty good results, and we're going to be building, hopefully, in an uncertain environment with cost problems, but hopefully hundreds of homes, including affordable homes for men, women, full support.
Now is not the time to change the rules. I think we want to work with the rules we have for this round, and I would say for this next round, we know that there's several more projects that we're probably going to be looking at within a couple of months, and we have an opportunity to pause and look at it. That was our plan and commitment to the development community and all who participated is test this and see what we get. Let's look at how it's worked, what we've gotten back, tweaks we want to make, and I think, we can look at a range of things and consider them when we revisit the policy. Tonight's not the time for that. I just want to use the numbers. We're going to get units at 90% of it or less. That's actually 17% if I did my math right, of the total number of projects that are just on the table tonight amongst these 4 projects. That's a huge step forward from where we were before with the other incentive program under MUPTI. We had none of them guaranteed. I understand the purpose was a little different. I wasn't on the council when that was first adopted, but it was something I was not real comfortable with when we started. So I feel better about the progress in delivering mixed environments and affordable units to our community. We may want to talk about tweaking some of those things when we get to percentages. This is a positive step forward, and it's interesting to hear the uncertainty tonight. As we all know, that's happening in a different way right now.
If I may make one last comment, since my comments were partly misinterpreted, I disagree that we need to support housing. As everyone who presented to us tonight said, the construction prices, the upfront cost, no one really talked about equity constraints right now, but there are some real issues around equity constraints. Lenders requiring you to bring a whole lot more equity to the table than debt that they're willing to lend, and there's other financing tools that I believe the city, the BURA obviously, but I believe the city has as its disposal. So I would hope that before we look at a second round of TIF, we can look at other financing before going down this path, because this is a long-term hit to the tax base of both the city as well as all of our taxing districts.
Counselor, can you elaborate when you say, I disagree, we need to support housing? What do you mean by that?
No, I said I don't disagree. I said I do.
What? We disagree our goals with the housing.
I've worked for affordable housing developer.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
run
sorry.
most of
I
it.
misheard. Thank you.
Do other councilors have comments?
No, I just did the math too. I mean, I think all of these projects combined are going to bring much needed affordable housing. And my day job, I know how difficult it is to make a lot of these projects pencil, especially above 3 stories. I appreciate the effort, and I think we need to provide assistance to make this happen. And the fact that a lot of these are going to be going to student housing, folks that need it the most in our community, I think is beneficial.
I'm in full support. I'm not going to repeat too much of what everyone else said. I mean, I think this, when we say affordable, I think what this is doing, this is getting the mid-range housing we desperately need in our community. And Jonathan has data that, binder to talk about why that's important, so people aren't cost burdened when renting. This will help create mini communities all over the city. I'm in full support.
Member Platt, did you have anything to add?
No, I ran on getting affordable housing amped up further than the good work the city's done. I'm in favor.
I wanted to respond to what Member Franzosa said. I think I'm certainly sympathetic to not wanting to be more generous than we have to be, but I do think this is a significant hit to the property tax base. I don't think that's the right way to characterize it, because in principle, these are projects that would not move forward without this assistance. And I get that it's a challenge to hit the target. How generous do we have to be to get the project to move forward? The risk is real that it won't move forward, and that's not a guarantee. We've seen other projects not move forward even after assistance. Hopefully we're not being too generous. The risk is it doesn't get built at all, and that is more worrisome than the margin of just enough versus too much. Let's take a look at it at the next round.
It's time for some motions. We're going to do 3 of them for each of the different TIF areas. So.
I move to adopt a resolution forwarding the Brita Ridge Tax Increment Finance Area Plan and report for public review and comment.
Second.
Moved by Member Perkins and seconded by Member Norris. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Against, and 6 in favor, so it passes. Second motion?
Move to adopt a resolution forwarding the Century Tax Increment Finance Area Plan and report for public review and comment.
Second.
Moved. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. Passes again. Motion number 3.
I move to adopt a resolution forwarding the Viridian Tax Increment Finance Area Plan and report for public review.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for being here tonight. Look forward to these projects moving forward.
Thank you, Jonathan.
This meeting is adjourned.